Words are powerful, much more powerful than many parents realize. A single sentence repeated throughout childhood can stay with the child for years, sometimes even for life. Many adults today still remember things their parents said to them decades ago, not because those words were repeated thousands of times, but because certain words leave emotional fingerprints. They become part of how children see themselves, part of how they view their abilities, part of how they view their future. I am a Japanese mother, and one thing many Japanese parents understand is that children are constantly listening, even when they seem distracted, even when they seem uninterested, even when they appear not to care. Children absorb far more than adults often realize. They listen to tone, they listen to reactions, they listen to labels, and slowly they begin creating an inner voice based on what they hear every day. Think about it. If a child constantly hears, "You're lazy," "You never listen," "You always cause problems," "You can't do anything right," eventually, many children stop hearing those words as criticism. They begin hearing them as facts, and that can quietly affect confidence for years. That is why many Japanese parents try to separate behavior from identity. A child may make a mistake, but the child is not the mistake. A child may behave badly, but the child is not a bad child. A child may struggle, but the child is not a failure. This small difference changes everything, because children who feel respected are often more willing to improve. Children who feel understood are often more willing to cooperate, and children who believe they can grow are often more willing to keep trying. Many modern parents accidentally use labels during moments of frustration, not because they want to hurt their children, but because parenting can be exhausting. There are stressful days, busy schedules, tantrums, arguments, homework battles, endless responsibilities. And during those difficult moments, words sometimes come out before parents have time to think. But many Japanese parents try to remember something important. The goal is not simply stopping bad behavior today. The goal is helping children become confident, responsible adults tomorrow. And the words used during childhood play a huge role in that process. Because children often become what they repeatedly hear about themselves. If they hear they are capable, they start believing it. If they hear they can improve, they start believing it. If they hear they are trusted, they often become more trustworthy. That is why many Japanese parents pay close attention to the language they use. Not perfect language, not magical language, just thoughtful language. Words that guide, words that teach, words that correct without damaging confidence. And maybe that is one of the quiet secrets behind Japanese parenting. Because before children learn from rules, they learn from conversations. Before they learn from consequences, they learn from daily interactions. And before they build confidence in themselves, they often borrow confidence from the words adults give them. Today, we will explore 5 things many Japanese parents try to avoid saying to their children, and why these simple changes in language may have a much bigger impact than most people realize. The first thing many Japanese parents try to avoid saying is, "Why can't you be like other children?" At first, this may sound harmless. In fact, many parents around the world say it regularly. Sometimes they see another child getting better grades. Sometimes they see another child behaving more politely. Sometimes they see another child helping more at home. And in a moment of frustration, comparison slips out. But many Japanese parents understand something important. Comparison rarely inspires children the way adults hope. Instead, it often creates insecurity. Because children do not hear, "I want you to improve." They hear, "You are not enough." And over time, that feeling can become part of their identity. Think about it. How would you feel if someone constantly compared you to another person? No matter how hard you worked, someone else was always the example. Someone else was always better. Someone else was always the standard. Eventually, most people would stop feeling motivated. They would start feeling discouraged. Children are no different. That is why many Japanese parents focus more on progress than comparison. Not, "Why aren't you like them?" but, "How can you improve from yesterday?" Not, "Look how much better they are," but, "Let's keep practicing together." Because growth becomes easier when children compete with their past selves instead of other people. The second phrase many Japanese parents try to avoid is, "You always cause problems." This phrase may seem small, but its impact can be surprisingly large. Children make mistakes. Children forget instructions. Children spill things. Children argue. Children test boundaries. That is part of childhood. But when mistakes happen repeatedly, some parents begin using labels, and labels can be dangerous because children eventually start believing them. Imagine hearing, "You always cause problems," again and again and again. Soon, the child may stop seeing mistakes as temporary. They may start seeing themselves as the problem, and that changes everything, because children often behave according to how they see themselves. A child who thinks, "I am capable," usually keeps trying. A child who thinks, "I am a problem," may slowly give up. That is why many Japanese parents try to separate behavior from identity. The behavior may need correction, but the child's worth remains unchanged. Instead of saying, "You are difficult," many parents focus on the action itself. Instead of attacking the child, they guide the behavior, and that often creates less defensiveness and more learning. The third phrase many Japanese parents try to avoid is, "You can never do anything right." Many adults still remember hearing this sentence years later, not because it was true, but because it hurt. Because this phrase attacks confidence directly. When children hear it repeatedly, they begin fearing mistakes. They begin fearing failure. And sometimes, they stop trying new things altogether, because every mistake starts feeling like proof that they are not good enough. Many Japanese parents see mistakes differently. Mistakes are not proof of failure. Mistakes are proof of learning. A child learning to ride a bicycle falls. A child learning mathematics struggles. A child learning responsibility forgets things. A child learning self-control makes emotional mistakes. That is normal. Growth has never been perfect, and it never will be. That is why many Japanese parents focus on effort and improvement, not perfection. Because confident children are not children who never fail. They are children who believe they can recover after failure. They believe they can improve. They believe mistakes are temporary, and that belief often becomes one of the greatest gifts parents can give. Maybe that is why many Japanese parents are so careful with their words, because words do not disappear when a conversation ends. Sometimes they stay inside a child's mind for years, quietly shaping confidence, quietly shaping self-worth, quietly shaping the person that child eventually becomes. The fourth phrase many Japanese parents try to avoid is, "You make me angry." This sentence is extremely common, and most parents do not mean any harm when they say it. But many Japanese parents believe it sends the wrong message, because it teaches children that they are responsible for other people's emotions. Think about it. When a child hears, "You make me angry," "You make me sad," "You make me upset," they may begin believing they control how adults feel. But emotional responsibility is complicated. Children are still learning how emotions work. That is why many Japanese parents try to explain emotions differently. Instead of saying, "You make me angry," they focus on the behavior. For example, "That behavior was not okay," or "I feel frustrated when this happens." This small difference teaches an important lesson. Actions have consequences, but children are not responsible for controlling every emotion around them, because healthy emotional understanding begins with healthy emotional language. The fifth phrase many Japanese parents try to avoid is, "You are a bad child." Perhaps this is one of the most important phrases on this entire list, because there is a huge difference between saying, "You did something wrong," and saying, "You are wrong." One corrects behavior, the other attacks identity. Many Japanese parents understand that children need correction, but they also need hope, because when children believe they are bad, they often stop believing they can become better. And when children stop believing improvement is possible, growth becomes much harder. That is why many Japanese parents try to make one thing very clear. A child can make a bad choice without being a bad child. A child can make mistakes without being a failure. A child can struggle without losing their value, because behavior changes, skills improve, mistakes can be corrected, but a child's worth should never depend on a single moment. And maybe that is the deeper lesson behind all 5 phrases. Many Japanese parents are not simply choosing different words. They are choosing a different way of seeing children, a way that focuses on growth, on learning, on patience, and on long-term character development. Because the words children hear today often become the voice they hear inside themselves tomorrow. The way parents speak becomes the way children eventually speak to themselves, and that inner voice can influence confidence, relationships, success, and emotional health for years to come. So perhaps the goal is not perfect parenting. No parent is perfect. No family is perfect. The goal is simply becoming a little more aware, a little more intentional, and a little more careful with the words we repeat every day. Because sometimes, a single sentence can shape a childhood, and a single change in language can shape a future. If you enjoyed this video and want more Japanese parenting lessons, child psychology insights, and family habit documentaries, subscribe to Discipline Redefined. And tell us in the comments, which phrase do you think parents should avoid the most?